Why is it so hard to leave someone who's breaking you? Why does your heart ache more when you walk away from a toxic person than it did during the entire relationship? Why does the pain of leaving feel greater than the pain of staying? It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're blind. It's because toxic love isn't built on real connection. It's built on confusion, and confusion creates addiction. What you're feeling is not just emotional attachment, it's psychological entrapment. You gave so much of yourself that you started to believe the relationship was your responsibility to fix. You thought if you just loved harder, if you just stayed calmer, if you forgave more, they'd change. But the truth is, you can't heal someone who keeps wounding you. Toxic relationships don't destroy you all at once. They erode you piece by piece, your confidence, your joy, your identity, until one day you look in the mirror and wonder, how did I lose myself in loving someone else? And the worst part? You feel guilty for wanting to leave, because they gaslit you into thinking it was all your fault. Because every time they hurt you, they came back just sweet enough to make you stay. That's not love. That's intermittent reinforcement, a cycle of pain and reward that creates trauma bonds instead of trust. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength is what I want to help you find today. In this video, I'm going to break down the psychology of toxic relationships. We'll talk about why they feel so hard to leave, the science behind emotional manipulation, and most importantly, how to break free with your dignity, power, and peace. You don't just need to walk away, you need to wake up. You need to stop normalizing pain and start choosing yourself. Every tip in this video is designed to rebuild the parts of you they tried to tear down. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments right now before we begin. I deserve peace more than I fear being alone. Let's dive in. Number 1, intermittent reinforcement, the most dangerous hook. The most powerful drug in a toxic relationship isn't love, it's unpredictability. You never know what version of them you're going to get. One day, they're sweet, attentive, charming. The next, distant, cold, cruel. And that emotional roller coaster doesn't just hurt you, it wires your brain for obsession. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and psychologists agree it's the same mechanism that keeps people addicted to slot machines. It's the inconsistent reward that makes you crave their validation even more. You become addicted not to the person, but to the hope that today might be the day they finally love you right. This creates a cycle. They hurt you. You stay. They apologize just enough, and your brain clings to the highs because the lows are too painful to face. You tell yourself, they didn't mean it. They're just going through something. I know they love me. But love doesn't hurt like this. And you know it. The Stoics believed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." That quote perfectly explains how toxic relationships trap us, not because they're constantly awful, but because we fear the loss of the person we think they could become more than we fear the pain they cause today. You keep waiting for the better version of them to return, but that version is only a tool. They use it to keep you tethered to a hope that never lasts. When someone gives you emotional whiplash, that's not passion. That's manipulation. That's trauma bonding. That's the most effective form of control, and the hardest one to break, because it doesn't feel like abuse. It feels like confusion, and confusion breeds attachment. Your brain thinks, if I just figure this out, I'll finally earn their love. But that's not your job. You're not in this relationship to solve them. You're here to save yourself. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments if this speaks to you. I'm no longer addicted to almost love. Remember, consistency is a sign of emotional maturity. If someone keeps showing you different versions of themselves to keep you guessing, it's not love, it's control. Number 2, gaslighting. When you start questioning your own reality. Gaslighting is not just manipulation, it's psychological warfare. It's when someone deliberately makes you question what you saw, what you heard, and eventually, who you are. In a toxic relationship, gaslighting is used to keep you confused, guilty, and emotionally dependent. You catch them in a lie. They say you're crazy. You confront them with your hurt. They say you're too sensitive. You try to walk away. They convince you it's all in your head. And over time, you stop trusting yourself. That's the most dangerous part. You no longer need them to lie. You begin lying to yourself just to keep the peace. Gaslighting turns your inner voice against you. And once that happens, they no longer have to control you. You'll do it yourself. You'll apologize for being hurt. You'll blame yourself for their actions. You'll silence your instincts just to avoid conflict. And every time you do that, you abandon yourself a little more. But let me remind you of something powerful. Confusion is not love. Love brings clarity. Manipulation brings fog. And when someone clouds your reality to maintain control, they're not trying to love you, they're trying to own you. The Stoics warned us about the importance of inner truth. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That doesn't mean it's your fault. It means your strength lies in returning to yourself. Because the real you, the grounded, wise, intuitive you, knows the truth. You felt it from the beginning. The problem wasn't your sensitivity. The problem was you kept explaining yourself to someone, committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need anyone to validate what you lived through. If your heart hurts, if your spirit is exhausted, if you had to convince yourself daily to stay, that's all the proof you need. Gaslighting only works on those who've been conditioned to ignore themselves. But now you're waking up. And once you start trusting your intuition again, the game is over. You were never crazy. You were being emotionally manipulated. And now you're breaking the cycle. Number 3, trauma bonds. Why you feel stuck, even when you know it's toxic. You know it's hurting you. You've cried yourself to sleep more times than you can count. You've questioned your worth, your sanity, and your strength, but still you stay. Or maybe you've left, but your mind keeps going back. That's not weakness. That's not love. That's a trauma bond. And trauma bonds don't form through kindness. They form through pain, unpredictability, and emotional starvation. When someone treats you poorly, then offers sudden moments of affection, it creates a neurological trap. Your brain starts linking the rare highs with emotional survival. So you crave them like a drug, desperate for that next good moment to numb the constant low. This is the cycle that breaks people. The toxic person mistreats you, then becomes the only source of temporary relief, and you start believing you need them to feel okay again. It's like your mind has been hijacked. But it hasn't been hijacked by love. It's been hijacked by inconsistency. And that's why leaving hurts so much. Because when you walk away from a trauma bond, your brain doesn't just miss the person. It goes through withdrawal, like detoxing from poison. You shake, you cry, you question everything. But don't confuse pain with mistake. Breaking a trauma bond will hurt, but staying in it will destroy you. The Stoics understood this. Seneca said, "It is not that we are given a short life, but we make it short by wasting time. Every day spent trapped in emotional chaos is time stolen from your peace, your growth, your future. You're not obligated to stay loyal to someone who feeds on your insecurity. You don't have to wait until you're fully healed to leave. Sometimes leaving is what starts the healing." The truth is, trauma bonds aren't about love. They're about survival. They're forged when your nervous system starts associating safety with someone who actually causes danger. But you don't have to live in survival mode forever. You don't have to keep explaining your pain to someone who thrives on your silence. You don't have to shrink just to be tolerated. You're allowed to outgrow the very people who once made you feel seen, because real love doesn't make you feel broken in order to feel chosen. Your freedom starts the moment you stop calling dysfunction normal. You were made for more than cycles of false hope and quiet suffering. Number 4. Fear of being alone. The trap that keeps you settling. This is the one nobody wants to admit, but it's real. One of the biggest reasons we stay in toxic relationships is because deep down we're afraid of being alone. Not because we don't know we deserve better, but because the silence scares us. The empty space where they used to be, the texts, the calls, the drama, the chaos, it becomes part of your daily rhythm, and even though it hurts, it's familiar. It becomes a strange comfort. And that's the trap. Toxic people feed on that fear. They know you've built routines around them. They know you've made emotional investments. So when they give you just enough to keep you from walking away, they're not loving you. They're managing your fear. They're betting that your loneliness will keep you loyal. But here's the truth. Peace will always feel lonely at first when you've been used to emotional noise. And growth will always feel like abandonment when you've never been shown healthy love. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That's what you must reclaim. The problem isn't that you're alone. It's that you were never taught how to feel safe in your own presence. You weren't shown that solitude can be healing, not haunting. And when you learn that, when you start rebuilding your inner world, no one can use your loneliness against you ever again. Think about this. Would you rather be alone in peace or together in pain? Would you rather sleep beside someone who makes you feel invisible or stand by yourself, knowing you're finally rebuilding your self-worth? Being alone isn't the enemy. Being connected to someone who damages your soul, that's the real danger. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being forgotten. But brother, peace doesn't forget you. Purpose doesn't abandon you. And self-respect doesn't require you to beg. You were not born to tolerate chaos, just to avoid silence. You were made for deeper love, and it starts with the love you give yourself in the quiet. Number 5. Identity erosion. When you lose yourself in the relationship. One of the most subtle but devastating effects of a toxic relationship is this: you stop recognizing yourself. Slowly, piece by piece, your identity is chipped away. You start adjusting your behavior just to avoid conflict. You stop doing things you love because they made you feel guilty. You silence your opinions, ignore your boundaries, and begin to question your worth, all to hold on to someone who was never holding on to you the same way. And what makes it more dangerous is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow erosion. You don't even realize you've been disappearing until one day you look in the mirror and don't know who you are anymore. This is what toxic love does. It demands that you abandon yourself to stay connected to someone else. And the cost is massive. Your passions fade, your voice weakens, you become reactive instead of intentional. And the more you lose yourself, the harder it becomes to leave. because now you're not just attached to them, you're detached from you. The Stoics knew the value of protecting your inner self. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." But in toxic relationships, you're forced to adorn yourself in someone else's expectations. You wear masks to keep the peace. You minimize your needs. You become a version of yourself that fits inside their comfort zone, but never your own. Let me be clear. Real love never requires you to become less. It never asks you to shrink. The right person will challenge you, yes, but never erase you. If someone can't love you with a voice, with opinions, with boundaries, they don't love you. They love control. And brother, your identity is not negotiable. You don't have to keep compromising your soul just to be accepted. You were never meant to trade authenticity for attention. Healing begins when you stop asking, "How do I get them back?" and start asking, "How do I get myself back?" Because the most powerful love story you'll ever write is the one where you return to you. Number 6. The addiction to unpredictable love. This is the psychological weapon toxic relationships use most, and it's terrifyingly effective. Intermittent reinforcement is when someone gives you love, attention, or validation at unpredictable intervals. One day they're kind, present, loving. The next, they go cold, distant, even cruel. You never know what version of them you're going to get, and because of that inconsistency, your brain goes into overdrive. It craves the next high, the next good moment. You end up chasing love like a gambler at a slot machine, hooked on the possibility of a win, even when the losses keep stacking up. This is how emotional addiction is formed, not through consistency, through chaos. Psychologists say intermittent reinforcement is one of the strongest forms of conditioning known to the human mind. And toxic people, whether consciously or not, use it to keep you emotionally tethered. You stay not because they treat you well, but because you remember the version of them that did, and you keep hoping that version will come back. But the truth is, that version was just bait. And the longer you stay, the more your nervous system is rewired to accept inconsistency as love. That's not love. That's survival. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is your call to stop waiting for the version of them that was never real. The unpredictability isn't a phase, it's the pattern, and as long as you stay in it, you will never feel safe, never feel grounded, never feel enough, because the game is rigged. You're being trained to settle for crumbs and call it a feast. It's time to break the addiction, not just to the person, but to the emotional roller coaster. You have to stop equating intensity with intimacy. Healthy love feels steady. It feels clear. It doesn't confuse you, punish you, or make you beg. You don't need to prove your worth to someone whose love feels like a test you keep failing. Love is not a gamble, and you were not made to live in emotional debt. You are not crazy for wanting stability. You are not weak for walking away from inconsistency. You are finally recognizing that peace is more valuable than the highs and lows of toxic attachment. Number 7. When they make you doubt your own reality. This is one of the most dangerous weapons in a toxic relationship. Gaslighting is not just lying, it's manipulation that makes you question your sanity. It's when they do something wrong, but make you feel like you're the problem for reacting. It's when they hurt you, then say you're being too sensitive. It's when you express a boundary, and they twist it to seem like you're selfish or unstable. And over time, you start believing them. You stop trusting your own emotions. You apologize for things that weren't your fault. You second-guess what you saw, what you heard, what you felt. You lose confidence in your own mind. That's what makes gaslighting so toxic. It doesn't just affect the relationship, it invades your identity. You start shrinking around them. You question your memory, your intuition, even your reality. And eventually you no longer know if you're overreacting or if they're just really good at making you feel small. The goal of gaslighting is to keep control. Because the moment you start trusting yourself again, you become powerful. The moment you start saying, "No, this happened. I saw it. I felt it. I'm allowed to feel this way," you break the spell. Stoic wisdom teaches us to stay grounded in truth, even when emotions run high. As Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. But here's the difference. You can take responsibility for your reactions while still refusing to accept manipulation. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming control over your mind. Gaslighting can only work when you abandon your inner compass. You fight it by staying rooted in clarity, in calm, and in self-trust. You must rebuild that self-trust brick by brick. Start journaling your experiences. Start validating your feelings. Speak to people who see you clearly. Remind yourself every day, you're not crazy, you're not too emotional, you're not hard to love. You were just trained to believe that your pain was an inconvenience. But your pain is valid. Your boundaries are sacred. Your truth is non-negotiable. You don't owe anyone the soft version of your experience just to keep the peace. The person who makes you question yourself is not your healer. They're the reason you need healing. You don't need to explain your truth to be free. You just need to own it. They tried to break you, not always with fists, but with silence, with confusion, with words that twisted your mind. They made you question your worth, your instincts, your memories. And yet, here you are, still standing, still healing, still reaching for truth. The hardest part of leaving a toxic relationship isn't walking away. It's walking back to yourself. It's realizing how much of your identity you gave away just to feel loved. It's mourning the version of you that accepted pain as normal. And it's forgiving yourself for not knowing better, because now you do. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." But today you stopped imagining a version of them that only lived in your hopes. You faced the truth. You exposed the cycles. And you've chosen something better, you. Toxic love conditions you to accept less. Stoic love, real self-love, teaches you to demand more from yourself and others. You're not broken for wanting clarity. You're not weak for choosing peace. You're not dramatic for saying, "I deserve consistency." That is strength. That is awareness. That is your rebirth. So, to everyone watching, I want you to drop this final affirmation in the comments right now. I choose healing over chaos. I return to myself. And if this video lit a fire in you, if it gave you clarity, courage, or even just a moment of peace, do not keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it. And most of all, subscribe. Because this channel isn't just about relationships, it's about rebuilding your relationship with yourself, one truth at a time. Your journey doesn't end here. This is where it begins.